Hello, Sumo fans. This is our July 2021 Basho wrap-up. This time around, we're going to do things a little differently. Marie and I's vacation schedules sort of didn't overlap at a time that we could meet up and record at the same time, so we'll be doing separate recordings. So I'll have my show with my set of 42 opinions, Maria will have hers, and it'll be interesting to compare and contrast. I have not listened to her podcast yet, so it's going to be sort of fun for me to see where our opinions sort of intersect, where they're different, and, well, there'll be two shows for you to listen to, so a little bit more sumo content. So, first and foremost, congratulations to Hakuho as Zensho Yusho on his way back, and we just might as well start with him at the top. Hakuho, Yokozuna, 1 East, one and only for now, 15-0 record. Welcome to the Hakuho show. Honestly, what more can be said? Everybody wanted to see what Hakuho had coming into this, what Hakuho is going to bring to the table. Can his mid to upper 30s body handle sumo? The answer is yes. And sort of everything that Hakuho was, his personality, his endless techniques, his diva-like, sometimes heel-like persona, all came back, and for me, it almost felt like it was a separate show. Just because it had been so long since we had seen this, that we would have our rest of the Basho, incredible sumo, fun stuff, lots to talk about, actually. And then at the end, when everybody else is finished, here comes the second showing. Here comes Hakuho, and then whatever poor soul has to go fight him. This isn't to say that Hakuho didn't have trouble, but it was that I'm in trouble, but I'm still Hakuho kind of a way. And he had something different every day. Sometimes it was just solid Yokozuna sumo. Sometimes it was a little bit crazy. And really, he's still here. It's a great relief. I really had thought this was the end. I think that the smart move for Hakuho is going to be to just go out on top. I think that because he did as well as he did, he's going to try again in September. Kind of hard to not. And it would make sense to have one Yokozuna around if a second one were to come out. There's just something about the fact that we haven't had him for over a year, and when he was here, it was that sort of half on, half off. And now he's back and just smashes everybody. It's sort of like the surprise you knew was coming, and you're just so happy it came out this way. Absolutely crazy. So, well done, Hakuho. We will see what the future holds for him. I sure as heck have no idea. And if he can keep his body in whatever shape he was able to in order to get this going, I could see him doing this a couple more times. Again, I think go out on top, sort of just have this final run. But for somebody like Hakuho, when she tastes that cup, it must be really hard to push it down. But in any case, next up we have Terunofuji Ozeki 1 East, 14-1. I think by this point, it's a near guarantee that Terunofuji is going to get the belt, that magical Yokozuna white rope, and I think you would be hard-pressed to find someone who says he doesn't earn it. Now, it wasn't the cup, it wasn't a guarantee. If he defeated if he defeated Hakuho on the final day, that would have been the, well, basically, they would have been making the belt in the backstage right then and there. I think that the 14-1 is Yusho-like competition, so he's probably going to get it. Just in terms of his sumo, it's just legendary at this point, because he seems to get even better, even more dominant, even more balanced. It seems the power is stronger, and he's just building. And you see him last tournament, and you're just like, this demi-human is just throwing people left and right. And then it's like, it seems to get even more and more Herculean as we go along. It's absolutely great to watch. The big thing I'm noticing from Terunofuji is what I call the true Ozeki quality, which is the refinement, even at this high level. So, the two matches that I noticed is against Endo and Meisei. Now, against Endo, he was definitely going in there with a bone to pick. But he gave Endo no chance and showed that whatever Endo was able to do to him, no one's going to be able to do that again. And also, now he's beaten Meisei like this before, but earlier on, Meisei sort of had Terunofuji in trouble. And this tournament, and definitely last tournament, I think, he goes to Meisei, he does that arm clamp, and he just shocks him. And so, it's that evolution that a true Ozeki has that shows that Terunofuji is just going upwards. I am looking forward to that belt on him. It would be an absolute shock if he doesn't get it. And really, a 14-1 in any other tournament is gonna get you that cup anyway. So, please, Terunofuji, we know those knees of yours are a ticking time bomb. We just want you to hold on for a little bit longer and really help keep that momentum going. So, some good news, some bad news this Basho. A lot of things shook out really weird. So next up is Ozeki 1 West Takakeisho at 1-2-12, which is just a damn shame because, that three-way playoff at the end would have been a dream. But Takakeisho, unfortunately, is injury-prone. And now he goes from working on his own Yokozuna run to being Katoban, sort of back to square one, which, in addition to being likely painful, is also really annoying for him. It's also has sort of a ripple effect on the rest of the top division, because this Takakeisho Terunofuji rivalry was really sparking both of them in a way that both of them just couldn't do by themselves. So now we're in this situation where Terunofuji has this fallen rival, and I think he had a herniated disc in his neck from crashing into Ichinojo, really bad stuff. It's not a guarantee he'll be back in September. And if he is back in September, he may not be at the competitive edge that he's going to need to make Terunofuji sweat. So it's sort of this double whammy that Takakeisho, not only do we get one of the strongest sumo wrestlers of our time to get just crippled, but it may put him in this position that he falls down to Sekiwake if he can't show up in September, and then he's got to rebuild from scratch again. I mean, now on the flip side, for Takakeisho, impossible is nothing. He's done this multiple times, that he's sort of been in Katoban, he's had this collapse, physical or mental, and he's built himself back up. So, I guess the progress here is that for Takakeisho, it's less of a, oh no, is he going to do this, and more of a, oh damn it, he needs to walk this impossible road again and get back to where he is. And it is sort of this, in a parallel universe, there's 3 Yokozunas right now because Takakeisho has been able to keep himself together. There's a whole, mess of keeping yourself injury-free, keeping yourself in good condition is as much a part of it as anything else. Also, just the way your body is, Takakeisho may just be more injury prone because he's shorter, because the way his fat is on his body. It's just maybe that's the lot in life. So maybe there is nothing he can do about it. Maybe this is the story of Takakeisho, the strong dominant Ozeki who will have these Shakespearean tragedy moments, but then rises out and overcomes them. It's going to be interesting to see what comes from Takakeisho in September. This time around, we got a good slap fight from Daieisho, and then nothing. So, Takakeisho, please, best health to you, safe recovery, and another thing is Takakeisho, he's still got some time. Unlike Terunofuji, who is just a ticking time bomb, unlike the other Ozekis at this point, because Shodai is older, so he's less runway. Takayasu is definitely, well, he's not a Ozeki, but on his way back to Ozeki, he's definitely on borrowed time, and Asanoyama is also no longer in Ozeki, but by the time he comes back up, he may not be able to come back to Ozeki. So, Takakeisho, the true Ozeki hope for the next 5 years, it seems. Up next is Shodai, Ozeki 2 East. 8-7, just barely squeaks by without getting another Katoban. It was really a roller coaster ride for him. Shodai it's the tale of the inconsistent, like, sleepy Ozeki, and that we sort of got a mixed bag of everything that Shodai does this tournament. So we started out with, like, the prime Shodai, the Ozeki Shodai, the guy who got him to this rank, who just blasts Takanosho out, absorbs Hokutofuji's power and throws him without any effort, almost looks bored doing it. You'll get the Chaos Shodai that sort of help with the Rocky Waters, where he does that ring ends magic. He's really good at positioning. So Meisei had Shodai on the ropes. He was able to sort of reverse. He almost beat Terunofuji, surprisingly. Almost pulled that off. Sort of just didn't have that little extra oomph. And so that Shodai's there. But then you have, like, this asleep Shodai. This crippled by whatever doubts he has in his mind Shodai. Where somebody like Tobizaru just slaps him around and Shodai does nothing. And at this point, and we've talked about this in the past, this is a mental block. There is something in Shodai's brain that is just locking away that potential. And it's almost like he needs to go back to his Ozeki, like Shin Ozeki, early Ozeki, almost Sekiwake kind of state of mind, where it seems that he was, well, this is all impressions. You know how this is. I don't have Shodai's number, and I'm pretty sure he wouldn't talk to me if he could. But it seems like there was more of, like, a carefree, almost like giddy, happy state of mind. This sort of, like, empty of this stress. And Shodai sort of needs to get back to that. I think the pressure of the rank is getting to him a little bit. Now, he's also had all of the personal issues, the stable issues, the scandal issues, and there's the pandemic, which is just bad to everybody in the world. So, the good news for Shodai, not Katoban. So, every time you're going into a tournament and you don't have that mark on you, it's like forward progress, opportunity for improvement. At the same time, Shodai does seem to be needing something that he's missing, and he does have the sort of career Ozeki stigma on him at this point. I think that there's a new level to Shodai that has yet to be seen. It's just a matter if Shodai himself can see it. And we'll see what happens. Now, what's also going to be interesting is, come September, Shodai may be the only Ozeki, because Terunofuji will very likely be Yokozuna. Asanoyama is going to be gone from Ozeki, and Takakeisho may either not be here at all if his neck needs him out for 2 places, or Shodai is going to be more dominant and Takakeisho is going to sort of needing to be scrapping for 8 wins. So Shodai is going to be in this place soon where he may be the Ozeki. He's the lone pillar of sumo greatness underneath the Yokozunas. And that's going to be interesting to see how he handles that, particularly since this added pressure seems to be part of his problems. Maybe being the top guy will sort of refine him, or maybe it'll just cause him to completely fall apart. Not too sure on that, but Shodai, please keep that fire burning. Oh, next up, we just mentioned Asanoyama, Ozeki 2 West. 0-0 and 15. We've talked about this scandal at length in the past. So right now, Asanoyama's presence on the Banzuke is sort of like the ghost of scandals past. Timing-wise, he's going to be Sekiwake in September. I'm going to guess they're just going to give him a second Sekiwake rank so they don't mess with the whole rankings thing. In November, he's going to be about midway down, and then he's going to be in Juryo in January. So, unfortunately, we're going to have this reminder of all of that unfortunate scandal for the rest of the year sort of staring at us, and we're going to have these little, oh yeah, that's going on thing, little conversations. It's going to be interesting to see what comes of this. I do not expect Asanoyama to retire. I think at this point, you just take your lumps and go. We'll just have to see. It'll be a time machine for him, but just be staring at his unfortunate 0-0 and 15 for a little while longer. And speaking of unfortunate, we will now be going on to Sekiwaki 1 East, Takayasu 7, 6, and 2. And what a difference those two absences make. And this has been what we've always talked about, that the Sanyaku ranks is this like razor thin margin that you have to live on. And we were talking about at the beginning, first off, that we thought he was out for back injury, which is just tragic. Then he comes back and seems to be doing really well. And so then the story became, can he overcome these two absences? And it seems the answer to that is no. And it's like every single loss he had was crucial. And that's just such a terrible place to be in. Now, fighting against Hakuho and Terunofuji, you do sort of expect those to be losses. Takayasu was, for me, the start of Hakuho's really got to show his stuff, and he did, and just did that arm lock throw on him and made it look effortless because Hakuho is the Hakuho. Against Terunofuji, maybe a little bit more, but so like those losses, like, okay, you're probably going to lose those. Those two people are sort of in a different plane of existence than the rest of us. But then he loses against Kiribayama, which was great for Kiribayama, to take nothing away from that performance. The loss to Shodai on the last day was a surprise for me, and that sort of shows the Shodai waking up. So sort of good for Shodai, but terrible for Takayasu, who goes from trying to tread water on his own Ozeki run to when he got 4 losses besides the two absences, then the Ozeki run was dead. Now his rank is gonna get knocked down. I doubt they'll dump him lower than Kamasubi. But there's a chance that they give him a Gashira 1. I think that would be a little cruel. And so of note is that Takayasu still has that power, that technique, that I was an Ozeki kind of a swagger. And he got his revenge on Tobizaru, which was nice. And when he fought Mitakeumi, it was a very telling match for me personally, because that was a massive stalemate for a while. And for like 40 seconds or so, Mitakeumi had the advantage on Takayasu. Takayasu was able to withstand the stalemate, sort of breaks and resets. Takayasu has the advantage. It takes him 15 seconds to get Mitakeumi out. So Takayasu still got that mind, that power, that technique, that Ozeki level, don't mess with me. And now it just seems that it's been tragically removed. But as Kamasubi, he's still going to be just as much of a threat to everyone else as he always was. It's just another unfortunate tragedy to be laid at Takayasu's feet, that now he has to start everything from scratch. So he needs double-digit wins in September just to restart the fire. That's a rough, nearly insurmountable slap in the face. Still holding out for that cup. Takayasu, I believe it is still in your future. Just gotta wait a little longer, it looks like. So, speaking of Mitakeumi, he is next. Sekiwaki 1 West, 8 and 7. Gets that. Actually, he got it on day 14. Squeaked out that Kachikoshi. The career Sanyaku, as always. He's shows that he has the stuff. He showed power versus Hokutofuji. He showed aggression versus Tobizaru. It was worth noting that a lot of people have trouble with Tobizaru, and Mitakeumi just rushes at him and throws him out of the ring. He's just like, get out of here. No monkeys. Does a really sweet timing on Daieisho. So, like, he still has that skill, that raw power. I think he, like, sent Kotoeko into orbit, too, which was hilarious. But there is that mental, that hunger that he just doesn't seem to have. Something I noticed this tournament around is that Mitakeumi and Hokutofuji seem to be similar sides of the same coin. In that Mitakeumi has the skills, has what it takes to climb, But then that there seems to be that little something, that mental, that heart, whatever it is, that's keeping Mitakeumi from getting all the way to the top. Meanwhile, Hokutofuji is just hard on his sleeve, fighting his best every single day, and you can tell there's what he's missing is not inside him. And so it sort of would be interesting to see if these two could sort of take pointers from each other. Maybe Hokutofuji starts to get a little more technique, a little more skill, whatever that little thing is he's missing, and then Mitakeumi needs to keep that hunger, and he shows the hunger. Mitakeumi gets there every once in a while. So he will be the top of the Sekiwake crop next time around. He's probably going to be hanging out with Meisei at the Sekiwake rank. And it's re-rack and reset for Mitakeumi for the fall to see if he can get some true momentum going. And that is, well, probably won't hold my breath on that, but it's always a chance with him. You can't count him out. Up next, we have Wakatakakage, Kamasubi 1 East. So, this is a surprise. A 5 and 10. I think that he just had the target on his back, that everybody knew to watch out for this guy. Everybody was just like, gotta focus on this Wakatakakage guy. Gotta keep eyes on him. And also, this is his first Sanyaku appearance that is sort of a pressure, almost a curse. Whenever somebody gets that rank the first time, it's just so much on them that it's really hard to hold on. It'll slip through your fingers. It slipped through Wakatakakage's fingers. And it did seem that there was what I call the arms race. Whenever there's somebody who has a specific type of technique, like with Wakatakakage, he does the pushing in from the side. He really is able to concentrate his power. And people are now specifically fighting to counter that particular technique, particularly higher up, where they have the ability to sort of focus their technique based on who they're fighting. And he still got it, though. I mean, those 5 wins, some of them were on Meisei, his partner in crime in Kanasubi, against Shodai, the Ozeki, so still fighting game opponents, and did beat Meisei. So still belongs here, just got thrashed. I think he was on tilt a little bit near the end. He had a couple of unfortunate slips because this was the July Basho. The slip and fall loss is very much on the table, which is unfortunate and really kind of screwed over a few people. But it's, everybody's got to deal with it, so it's just unfortunate when it's your foot that slips. He's going to be a few rungs down, understandably. Wakatakakage has definitely made his presence felt. So this 5 and 10 is definitely a sort of a high water, or a block, but it's also the high water mark. Because now we're saying, look how good I can be. Just you wait, I'm only going to get better. So for him, it's a bit of a regroup, sort of a learning experience. And for, I would say, a third of a second, he had a chance at Hakuho. A third of a second. Non-zero number. I was like, ooh, maybe he's got it. And then Hakuho throws him out because he's Hakuho. Anyway, Wakatakakage, we will not write you off. I think that it really is a matter of time before you make your move. And he gave it his best. Last day he beats Mitakeumi. He's trying every day. That's another thing. It's that hunger. And that will get you there. Now, speaking of his partner in crime, Meisei and Kamasubi, 8 and 7. Kamasubi won West. The freshman Sanyaku test passed. Just barely. With that 8 and 7. So he had a little bit of luck, I will say. This is not to discount Meisei's skills, but he got a freebie on Takakeisho because day 3 is when he was supposed to fight him, and that's when Takakeisho went out. There's also a little bit of match fishiness going on. So on the last day, he gets Kageyaki. Way down on it. A little bit suspect, but I'm like, maybe there's just nobody else to fight. Takanosho, the last day, also 7 and 7. Both of them are 7-7 going to the last day. Gets Chionokuni. And I'm looking at that and I'm like, you know what you should have done? You should have had Kageyaki fight Chionokuni because they're both near the bottom and they're both fighting to stay alive. And then you have Takanosho and Meisei fight for the upper ranks. And of course, then you think it over and you're like, they wanted Meisei and Takanosho to both win and stay up top, so they sort of fed him something to save them out. And that's sort of... It bitters the victory a little bit, in my opinion. Because I think it would have been very interesting to see Meisei and Takanosho fight it out for that top space. And then it would have been... But then you would have had a lot more turmoil and just... come on, guys. But, again, we're not taking this away from Meisei. Meisei doesn't pick who he fights. He just fights the person in front of him. And he did a really good job of that this tournament. He beat Takayasu and showed power, timing, control. He beat Daieisho, I believe. Let me double check. At his own game, no less. And outslaps. Oh, wait, he did fight Takanosho. What's going on here? Never mind. I need to double check my notes before I go on a rant. But still, don't give him Kageyaki. Anyway, well done, Meisei. He's gonna be Sekiwaki next time. So, well earned. And now we're gonna see how Meisei's gonna do in this upper crust. Man, what could he have done? Never mind. I'll look into it later. I'll review my notes. So, now we're into Megashira. We have Endo, who is Megashira 1 East, 1, 4, and 10. He had an arm injury of some sort that pulled him out on day 6. Now, sort of through Murderer's Row on the opening few days. So that 1 and 4, his one win was against Shodai, and his losses were against Takayasu, Hakuho, and Terunofuji. So, hard to tell whether or not Endo still had it to go, because they gave him the murder lineup out the gate. But I think the Yokozuna Endo of the past may be gone. And, well, having an arm injury certainly isn't going to help. He did handily beat Shodai, which was nice to see. And he gave the top division a fight. He didn't just lay over. I mean, he got an elbow from Hakuho, but that's just Hakuho being Hakuho. I think the fact that he still put a little bit of fear into some of these people up top means that he's still got it. Helps sort of show that his performance in May was not a fluke. It's just he does need that focus. We'll see what happens when he comes back. I'm sort of expecting that the twilight of Endo's surprise resurgence is gone. I'd love to be proven wrong. I'd love to see Endo do some crazy stuff again. It may happen yet. We will have to keep an eye. Next up, we have Daieisho, Megashira 1 West, 5 and 10. So there's an interesting sort of comparison between Daieisho and Takanosho. And for Daieisho, the takeaway is that he is fighting injured. And that has to be the best explanation for what's going on. Because his timing seemed to be off, his balance was off, he was getting a lot of parried and slapped down and thrown around, and the power that he has wasn't really there. So, even if, this is the way that Daieisho will be for the rest of his career, which would be depressing. The January U show that he had, it proved that Daieisho, at all cylinders firing, has what it takes to just smash everybody. And even some fights that he lost, he still showed the heart. Terunofuji, he gave a little bit of a scare. He beat on Wakatakakage, who again was on tilt a little bit this tournament. But he's still got that power. He still belongs near the top. It just seems that he's being held back by all those bandages on his fingers. And I think there was something on his arm, and that's never a good sign. He's going to tumble a little bit. The hope is that Daieisho's recovery will just catapult him back up. But you never know when you hit a point where you're just so injured that maybe you just start tumbling. I think the power's still there, the technique's still there, the will to fight is still there. It's just he needs to fight through his own broken fingers or whatever else is going on. But a little bit of a tumble going on for him, and sort of a bit more dirt on him than I'd certainly prefer. So then comparing him to Takanosho, Megashira 2 East, 8 and 7. So Daieisho and Takanosho were the two people who gave up their Sanyaku slots to Meisei and Wakatakakage. So this is sort of their, how can you recover from this downfall? Now, for Takanosho, he was 6 and 7, and then won the last 2 matches. And again, had Chiyonokuni as the last match, which, not to disrespect Chiyonokuni, but the sheer difference in rank between them is a little bit off. Now, again, I don't do these things. I will not pretend that I'm any good at it, and certainly not better than the matchmakers that do this stuff for a living. But, and it does, I feel like you gotta earn it all the way through. This is my own take on it. He did have a real slow start. Now, he did fight Hakuho, Terunofuji, Mitakeumi, and Shodai, but that was an 0-4 start, and so it looked like he was just on the way down. Then he wins 5. He's very streaky this time. Wins 5, and then is able to scrape the final 3 wins off the last few days. He's showing that he has the focus. So a lot of push sumo people, you can divert them. You can sort of slap them down. You can time them out. Daieisho got slapped all over the place. Hokutofuji sometimes can get timed out. But Takanosho, he shows that the strong, focused sumo techniques is sort of his strength. So he's probably not going to be the strongest guy, but he will be stronger than most. He may not be as good on the belt as someone else can be, but he does seem to have that eye for things. And particularly when he fought other people, I think he did a number on... No, he didn't fight Onosho this tournament. That's interesting. He did beat Daieisho, though. So the two of them going at it, that was definitely the flail versus the push. Now, he's probably not going to get that empty slot. I'm guessing the empty slot's going to go to... in Sanyaku is going to go to Ichinojo. But he's going to be knocking on that door, and as soon as anybody in Sanyaku slips up, he's going to be right back in. And then he'll be back to where he was. And then he's in recovery phase right now, and he's on step 1. So good news for Takanosho. So, speaking of Ichinojo, Megashira 2 West 10 and 5. This prime Ichinojo is just continuing forward. The 10 and 5 has got to get him the empty Sanyaku slot. And so even though Takanosho is a step higher, he's got 2 more wins. And maybe you can give it to somebody else? Actually, no. Hoshoryu's down in Megashira 5, and that's really the only other real contender for it. Hokutofuji, maybe, but Hokutofuji was also 8 and 7, and he's lower down. So my bet is that Wakatakakage's Kamasubi slot will be given to Ichinojo. So that'll be Sanyaku Ichinojo coming in, and that is so exciting. He has had decisive victories. Like, it's not just a 10 and 5 of him, like, slapping people down, which would be like the Ichinojo of old. This is 10 and 5 of him, like showing power. And showing power against higher people with him. Shodai, Wakatakakage, Takanosho, Mitakeumi. Like, these are some, like, impressive victories, and he's doing it with power, this forward drive, and resisting people pushing against him. And some of these, he's had, the resisting thing has definitely been something that's been pushing up the power he's always had. It's that hunger, it's that aggression that Ichinojo is picking up, and it's a little terrifying to see this huge, powerful game Ichinojo just drive somebody out, and they have nothing to do to stop it. So keep an eye on Ichinojo. He may just slip past a good number of people that it's gonna be fun to watch. It's gonna be fun to watch. Ichinojo, keep it going. Next up, we have Megashira 3 East, Hokutofuji 8 and 7. This is my favorite wrestler. He's just so much fun to watch. I will freely admit just a massive amount of bias. I remember Hokutofuji, his first 2 days were some crazy fights that he won versus Wakatakakage and Meisei. So 2 days in, he beats the new Sanyaku, and I send Maria a message. I'm like, this is Hokutofuji's time to win, like the U show. Out of my mind. He has new blue belt, some new energy going in there. That's also true. I mean, then he fought the real competition and he dropped against basically everybody else above him in the Sanyakus. But 8-7 still. He's got that forward momentum for Hokutofuji. Like, it is a game of inches. And he's showing that better balance. It does seem that for him, like, he has the power, he has the will. He outpushed Ichinojo, by the way, Ichinojo giving everybody trouble. He gave Hokutofuji trouble, but Hokutofuji just powered through it. It seems that maybe that better balance, that lower body strength that seems to be improving is like one of the keys that's going to get him all the way up. And now, again, my hype for Hokutofuji is just completely overpowering anything I can look at objectively. And 8-7 is sort of scraping by, but scraping by at Megashira 3 is just as good. It will be interesting to see if he can keep his momentum forward. Hokutofuji, like, this may be just where he lives for a little while until he hits, like, some breakthrough point. I'm just so happy to see him going and doing well, and just there's these tiny little improvements that seem to be building up over time. Hokutofuji, I wish you the best. Maybe in position for Sanyaku in September. So, very possible. So, somebody not going to be in contention for Sanyaku. Megashira 3 West, Tobizaru 4-11. Crazy fun Tobizaru this tournament. So it's really interesting, the sort of the flavor of Tobizaru Sumo. So in May, we're in July now. In May, he was 5-10, and then he sort of kept his rank, and it was really weird. And Tobizaru was fighting, having fun, but like getting thrown all over the place in May. Come to July, and he is just chaos incarnate. And he's not just like slapping everybody, he's fighting like he belongs here. He's fearless. He slapped Shodai silly, got the win there. His win against Okinoumi was crazy, because Okinoumi has him grabbed, has him driving out, and he does this weird, like, physics-bending slip turn. I had to watch it on a replay a few times, because I just did not understand what I saw. Just some crazy balance. And then, even in the matches that he lost, he still was a lot of fun. Like against Ichinojo, he's sort of slapping him and slapping and circling, and eventually Ichinojo gets him. He does basically the same thing to Terunofuji. I'm going to call his fight with Hakuho a win for Tobizaru. The most ridiculous thing in this tournament was the Hakuho-Tobizaru fight, where they just stood and stared at each other for a full minute, while Tobizaru just desperately trying to figure out what to do. Just like panic deer in headlights, and it's just like slaps around at Hakuho. Hakuho just pushes him away, keeps staring at him. Oh my god, so much fun, and never would have happened if Tobizaru wasn't slated to fight Hakuho. Now Hakuho is having his own crazy brand of fun as well, and clearly Hakuho did get a grip on that belt and chuck him out at the end, but I consider the fact that he made Hakuho fight that way, one way or the other, is just so much fun. Just absolute insanity. And there's not really going to be anybody like that at the top of the division who can have people who are normally fighting strong forward power sumo to just tentatively watch this tiny little flying monkey man slap at them for 30 seconds. Ah, bless you, Tobizaru. He's going to fold. I have a feeling that they're going to correct their tumble down, and then he's going to be around 6 or 7 next tournament. Maybe not. Maybe they'll keep him in 5 because he's just absolutely crazy to watch. Don't know, but for me, this tournament cemented Tobizaru's presence in the top division. And so long as Tobizaru can at least win enough games to stay up here, he's just going to be a darling to watch. So, next up we have Kotoeko, Megashira 4 East, 2-13. This poor boy, we knew he was over-promoted. Going in here, we're like, this boy has been thrown to the wolves. I'm saying boy, he's a man. Sorry, Kotoeko. It's just, they just did you dirty giving you this. I said for Kotoeko he should get a participation trophy for showing up. just absolutely thrashed around. He did show spirit. So, like, he didn't give up. He gave it his try. He threw his lot in, the best foot forward. Show of power versus Okinoumi. So there were shades of the Kotoeko that got him here. Because he's able to overpower and outmuscle these bigger, stronger guys. And he made a few fights closer than they should have been. Like, Daieisho slipped when he was fighting. Kotoeko almost wins, just can't get it together. Another, like, makes some people work for it who maybe shouldn't. Takanosho, Kiribayama, Wakatakakage had a moment with all of them. So Kotoeko showing, maybe he's not nearly as outmatched as we think, but at the same time, he was thrown to those wolves, and those wolves ate well. I'm hoping for Kotoeko, he just takes this whole thing as a learning experience. He gets to fight the best of the best. He had a fight with Hakuho. And so he's, grabbing Hakuho's belt for a few seconds. That's gotta be some sort of positive experience. Draw some energy from the greatest of all time. And so these one-sided losses to a few people up top, if he can just download this, sort of just say, I did this, I had this fight, and then sort of bring that energy with him wherever he falls, it will be interesting to see if he can sort of just, like, build himself back up from there. But, oh man, there's a list of people who did not have a good time of it. Kotoeko is on that list. I'm still gunning for him to do some sort of a turn. It's not going to be for a little while, certainly, but to keep an eye on Kotoeko. We're not done with him yet. So next up we have Chiyotairyu, 4-11, Megashira 4 West. Also kind of overpromoted, both him and Kotoeko, and we saw him at Megashira 4. We're like, what's going on here? And, well, Chiyotairyu at this point, it's strong tachiai, push-pull, and then maybe some slapping. Like, that's basically his routine these days. Which, it works down below in the lower ranks, and he definitely got 4 wins out of it. Got a win off of Wakatakakage. I mean, that's something. I mean, again, Waka was a little bit in tilt. Got a win off of Kiribayama. I forgot about that. Oh, okay. Getting some wins. But when you sort of one note like Chiyotairyu is, or at least one note in terms of your initial go, you're gonna get figured out and slapped around a little bit. I will say, I am still sort of crooked sore about his fight with Terunofuji, because it was a very clear matcha, but it was not called, and Terunofuji just drags Chiyotairyu out. Would Chiyotairyu really have a chance against Terunofuji? Very low chance. But still, it's rough when you lose because it ain't your fault. It's just like, it's a rough thing. But, I mean, like, even if he somehow beats Terunofuji, which would be absolutely bonkers, he's still 5-10. So, really, he's on the way down. Hopefully back to somewhere where we can impose his power again. But it was fun to see him all the way at the top and get sort of like Kotoeko. It's like, remember this guy? Yeah, let's throw him all the way up here and see what happens. Anyway. Next up, Megashira 5 East. Okinoumi 5-10. This snuck up on me. So first week, he's showing that veteran power, that Okinoumi dominance that I just love to watch. I think he wins against Hoshoryu. Yeah, he beats Hoshoryu, the rising star. Put some dirt on Onosho, and just even in his losses, like, he basically won against Kiribayama, but he just stepped out first. And sort of just an unfortunate occurrence. But then what happens is he just falls off hard in the second week. So, worth noting, the second week did have Terunofuji, Hakuho, Shodai, Mitakeumi. So, this is just the meat grinder again, that sometimes you have these people that looks like they're doing well, and then they fight the best of the best, and also fighting people who are not losing to anyone. Like, if you're going to fight Hakuho and Terunofuji in this tournament, you're just going to have 2 losses. That's just the name of it. Like, honestly, we should, for a thought exercise, I should go through everybody's record and just cross off any losses to Terunofuji and Hakuho. Just like, these don't count. How'd you do now? So that's like a 5-8. That's not terrible. I mean, he did fall off, though. So, lost to Kageyaki, lost to Daieisho. Lost to Takarafuji. I'd give that to Takarafuji, though. That's a valid win for him. So maybe a little concerned. I would say that there was a theme of some of these older veterans sort of having a rough time of it this tournament. And again, could have just been the 2-loss rule I just made up right now. Maybe it's the fact that a lot of these people are a little more comfortable a few rungs below, maybe below that meat grinder. But like with all these veterans, got to sort of keep an eye on them. I'm just glad to see Okinoumi back high up enough so like when he does fall down, it'll be like 8-9. Like that's a pretty sweet spot for Okinoumi, I think, because he can sort of take bites at the people coming up and take some slaps at the people going down and just stick around. And again, he's still got it. He's throwing people. Don't sleep on Okinoumi, because he will check you very, very far. So we just mentioned him, Hoshoryu. Megashira 5 West 10-5 Technique Prize. Oh man, I cannot begin to describe how exciting Hoshoryu was this tournament. He's got that new red belt energy. I always love the new belts. I keep an eye on those. Anybody time they change that silk sash, I'm like, okay, got to keep an eye on you. Maybe you're channeling something new. And this boy had power. He outbelts Kiribayama, and that's always good to see the next few people, Hoshoryu, Onosho, and Kiribayama, they're right next to each other in the Banzuke, and they're all sort of like these young people gunning for it. So Hoshoryu outbelts Kiribayama, so that's a good sign. Outpushes Onosho. Great for Hoshoryu, kind of bad for Onosho. Puts dirt on Shodai again. Beats Wakatakakage all the way up at the top. So like these are good, solid matches. Beating his fellow contenders, beating the people above him. I am just going to love every fight he has with Ichinojo going forward. The two of them put on a show. And Hoshoryu did show that crazy flexibility he has. And if he wasn't bending and contorting the way he did on the first match with Ichinojo, he earned that Torinaushi that he got for the repeat and then earned the second victory, which it cannot be easy to fight over 400 pounds of, and again, game Ichinojo. This is the Ichinojo who wants you down. And Hoshoryu fought him twice and won the second time. This guy is making his move. Gunning out. Doesn't get the win on Hakuho, but he didn't fight Hakuho this time around. We're denied that. Well, if Hakuho is back in September, him and Hoshoryu run a collision course. That'll be real fun. Well, in any case, Hoshoryu probably not Sanyaku, but if he keeps fighting like this, it's a given. And this guy's like 23, super young, super hungry. I feel like it's like we were hoping that once Hoshoryu gets those jitters out of the way, sort of gets comfortable being in the top division, and then lets that hunger go, lets his urge to win just unleash, that we get this. We get a guy who's 10-5 and the loss. So a couple of suspect losses maybe, but a lot of this is just we're gonna sand these rough edges right off, and Hoshoryu's only gonna get better. He's knocking on that door. He is gonna smash somebody, and it's gonna be a surprise. I can see him. Delusions. I'm getting ahead of myself. Hoshoryu, well done. Please, you're making me dream big for you. I like it. Megashira 6 East. Onosho 7 and 8. So I did mention that Hoshoryu, Onosho, and Kiribayama, they're right here next to each other. 5 West, 6 East, and 6 West. So for Hoshoryu, he's just this rising star. He's shooting up. And then Onosho and Kiribayama are sort of the new hotness, but they're sort of cooling down a little bit because they've been here long enough. During our preview, we were talking about how for Onosho and Kiribayama, they've risen up and then sort of got bumped down a few times. And that's part of the process. But it was starting to happen to them enough that we're like, where's your potential at? And so there's sort of this trial for the two of them, Onosho and Kiribayama. And this is going back to our pairings. They're both Megashira 6. So they're just underneath the meat grinder, which starts at about 4 and 5. But they're still high up enough so that they have to prove themselves. And for Onosho, that's 7 and 8. That is a trial failed. Now, Onosho had some problems going on the first week, particularly. He couldn't do his brand of sumo, as they always say. he was getting out-pushed and out-driven and out-muscled by people. And by some people that you really shouldn't be getting that done to. So he did finish strong. He won 5 of his last 7, which is where 5 of those 7 in the 7 and 8 comes from. He nearly had a go of it up until he lost the Daieisho of rallying back. For a while, it looked like he was going to get it, but 7 and 8 in the end, he did stem the bleeding a little bit. Like, that could have been a double-digit loss, but then he sort of finished strong with some strong sumo. But of those 7 wins, only 2 of them were over somebody higher ranked than him, which is part of the problem. It's going to be rough for Onosho going forward, I think. As a fan of Onosho, it's going to be harder to see him making the push and break for it, particularly the same way that somebody like Meisei or Hoshoryu, Wakatakakage are making these pushes. Like, Onosho may not have that in him. And whether or not this is simply his ceiling, maybe this is his lot in life, maybe he just had a bad basho. Maybe fighting in July was just not his gig. I mean, there's always that you don't know what's going on. But Onosho just seemed to be running out of time when it comes to that revival. Now, maybe he'll just have a late-term revival. Maybe give him a year of figuring it out and he'll be back. I feel that Onosho may have lost his momentum a little bit, that drive forward. And he's going to need to turn it around if he wants to take a crack at those upper ranks, I think. It's sort of a pause and reset and meditate or something. Tough luck, Onosho, I would say, this time around. The 7 and 8 shows he's still nearly here, anyway, at least. But conversely, Kiribayama, Mega Series 6 West, 9 and 6. So if Onosho failed the trial, Kiribayama passed it. And the big thing is that his belt sumo is starting to show some consistency. It's more reliably winning, and not just on offense. There's been a couple of matches that he was on the defensive, that somebody got his belt first and he was able to turn it around. He had a real strongman sumo match with Hidenoumi. Hidenoumi had him. Kiribayama sort of worked it out. Of course, the benchmark win for Kiribayama this time around was against Takayasu. And they had a big Iron Man match, and this was as much of a destructive loss for Takayasu as it was a building victory for Kiribayama, who showed against one of the best in the business. My belt sumo can get me these wins. My throws, my timing, it's starting to click. So, as we had mentioned before, unfortunately for these people, like, this is like phase 1 of the trial. So now Kiribayama is going to go up to 4, 3, and now he's going to have a harder trial of now being able to deal with everybody. So being at that 9 and 6 did mean that he didn't have that 2-strike assumption with Takarafuji and Hakuho. It meant that he wasn't able to fight the other Ozeki. So, would he have been 7 and 8 if he were up higher? Maybe, maybe not. This is what Kiribayama will need to prove to us in September. But for the time being, very well done, and got more than enough runway, time, to maybe make a run at it. I don't know if he's going to be running like Hoshoryu, but a run is a run, I guess. So next up, we're going to go back to our topic of veterans not having a good time of it. Myogiryu, Megashira 7 East, 5 and 10. So pretty bad, always bad to have double-digit losses. Worth noting, he was 2 and 9. So he sort of got it together in the end. But he was just getting thrashed. And hard to say on this one. A lot of his fights, it seemed that he was a step behind. Like, he'd have a strong tachiai, or he would otherwise be doing okay out the gate. But then he would be driven back. He'd be fighting well at the edge, but then he'd lose. Like, that was a common theme for Myogiryu this time around. Now, maybe his tachiai is slower, maybe it's losing some edge, or maybe just a lot of the people that he fought just had that power and hunger out the gate. That being said, this is going to be a rough one for Myogiryu. He's going to drop fairly low down. He may get double digits on this. The hope is he'll be able to rebound, but as I mentioned before, all of these veteran fighters, once they start these falls, you gotta keep an eye on them. You're like, okay, buddy, are you falling because you just had a bad day because the heat kind of got to you? Or are you falling because this is a fall? And it's hard to tell. I always like Myogiryu. He's like the man you do not count out. Him and Okinoumi are sort of in the same boat for me. So I am hoping this is simply a bump in the road. But we're going to find out in September for one way or the other. So, other side of the coin, another pairing here. We have Myogiryu, 5 and 10, Mega Zero 7 East, Mega Zero 7 West, Chiyoshoma, who's 8 and 7. Every time he does something, I'm like, what? My what moment in this time was some surprise power. He was throwing people, and I guess I knew he can do this, but this time around, like, he was getting some air. It was some decisive, like, real throwing. And that's always great. I love Chiyoshoma. He's just great to watch. Still henkaing, still strafing, still being a tricky bastard. But, like, that's the Chiyoshoma we know and love. This veteran guy. And, like, I kind of thought 7 was going to be his cap, that, like, people were going to catch up with him. But 8 and 7, look at this. Beat Hoshoryu, for goodness sake. Now, that was probably more nerves. And again, for Hoshoryu, it is that sanding those rough edges. But it just goes to show you, Chiyoshoma, he's got more to offer us. More than we even thought he had. And that is just a darling present. So it's going to be interesting to see where Chiyoshoma goes from here. From now on, I am not counting anything out. If we wake up in 6 months and Chiyoshoma's in Sanyaku, I'll be like, really? I should have known. I'm not going to discount it. It's just fun to watch, fun to check it out. Full of tricks, full of sneakies. Puts dirt on people when you're not looking. Thank you, Chiyoshoma, for your service. I might wanna. Oh man, if he puts dirt on somebody really high up, I am just gonna have a dream. I can see him like upset victory on Mitakeumi. Delectable. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, gotta get back to reality. Megashira 8 East, Takarafuji, another veteran with an 8 and 7. Iron Man Sumo is back for Takarafuji. We were a little concerned with him. He had that resurgence, then he sort of had the collapse. He was building himself back up. So for a little while, it was like his durability really wasn't there. And he was getting pushed around. We're like, oh, this is bad news. Then Takarafuji gets a little bit higher. He gets the defensive back, but then he doesn't have a lot of offense. And he's just getting pushed out. And he's resisting people for a while, but it's just not working. Now he's showing the strength. Of note is that he outbelted Kiribayama. That was a good show. He's absorbing power from stronger people. So, Onosho, Aoiyama, Shimanoumi, pushing into him, testing the resolve. Takarafuji has resolve for days. Then fights back with that strongman sumo, the Iron Man sumo. Very good. So, if you do push on him hard enough, he will still, if you keep him on the defensive, he'll just stay there. So somebody like Hoshoryu, who just is nothing but offense, will wear him down. And he did seem to fall off a little bit near the end. But it is a crucial Kachikoshi for him, I think. This is a very telling 8 and 7. A hard-earned 8 and 7. And one that is showing progress. He's sort of rebuilding himself again. He's taking some of that Terunofuji energy in. And well, re-rack and re-go for him too. We'll see how far up he goes. We'll see if getting a taste of some of those higher up people is gonna knock him back down. It does seem that for these veterans, this 7 to 9 seems to be that sweet spot. So this does seem to be the place where Takarafuji is going to thrive. And he's there, he's in it. So we'll see. Maybe he can climb a little more. Prove me wrong. Get a 6 or a 5 for November. Be good to see. Good to see. So next up, this is a bit of a Debbie Downer for me. Aoiyama, Megashira 8 West, 7 and 8. So 7 and 8 isn't bad, but what sucks for me a little bit is that that spark or whatever that he had in March that got me absolutely crazy seems to be fading away. This Aoiyama was much more the old Aoiyama. The strong Tachiai, push somebody out. If that doesn't work, panic pull. He does have some of these tricks. He is moving a little better. He does go for the belt here and there. So he's a little bit of diversity, but there's that in March and that little bit of time that he was in May when he came back, there was that snap, that sort of that reflex that he had, that's gone. And that sucks a little bit for me. So 7 and 8 means he's still very much in it. One of the few people to beat Tamawashi. That's definitely telling that he's still got the power, still here to stay. It's maybe he can find that spark again. Maybe it's sort of just a one-time thing. I mean, maybe it'll be sort of like he has this spark of power and then falls down, and spark of power and falls down again. Not really sure, but I think I'm gonna have to temper my expectation for Aoiyama in the future to sort of more of the way that he was, and that still strong, aggressive, but maybe not blasting people out, maybe not turning on a dime, but still around. Now that we're getting lower down on the Banzuke, we're getting to that point that we're saying, okay, takeaway is that he's still here. So, speaking of still here, Megashira 9 East, Hidenoumi 7 and 8. He's struggling a little bit with the top dogs, it seems, but he's carving out his niche. Like, Hidenoumi seems to be settling down. A lot of his wins were sort of this cool under pressure. He was driven back, but he didn't panic. He just stuck with the belt. He has some agility also. He's got some of this, sometimes you see the bigger people and you're going to be lumbering around, but then Hidenoumi does that slick like jump push down on Myogiryu, and he gets air. I'm like, what? Good stuff. So Hidenoumi, bag of tricks, diverse, got some push, obviously the belt guy. Did some great stuff against Hoshoryu. One of those 5 losses on Hoshoryu were these incidentals. I think Hidenoumi has Hoshoryu's number, though. There's something up. There are sometimes, every once in a while, somebody's brain just clicks in a way. So that's got to be useful for Hidenoumi. I do think that Hidenoumi, down a little bit with a 7 and 8, and Megashira 9 is starting to reach the caution zone a little bit. I wouldn't say the danger zone, but Hidenoumi does feel like he's here to stay a little bit. Him and his brother, Tobizaru, I still think that they're sort of trading energy with each other. Neither of them did that well. For Tobizaru, it was sort of an inevitability. For Hidenoumi, I do think that he's still not quite planting his feet in the top division, but proving that he's not going out without a fight. I guess I'll go with that. Handling the pressure well. Maybe some better results in September for him. Next up is Shimanoumi, Megashira 9 West, 8 and 7. And interesting takeaway this time for him was a little bit of belt work. Now, he's done this here and there a little bit, but extra skills in the grappling. Maybe some body locks and stuff like that. And he's done some throws and some pivots and stuff like that, but like a lot of what Shimanoumi has going for him, and what I really love about him is that grit, is that you can push him to the edge, but you can't get him out, usually. And so I had mentioned there was that Iron Man win with Takarafuji against Shimanoumi. That was one of those matches that, Takarafuji won and Shimanoumi lost, but they both won because they really showed that fighting spirit. And that's what Shimanoumi still has in spades. And interesting to see if this belt work goes anywhere. Maybe if he just adds it to his pile of tricks. Definitely just keep an eye on him. I know I got a little head rush from him before when he had a really good record. I'm like, maybe he'll get a youth show. Maybe not so with an 8 and 7 at Megashira 9, but I still think that there's something there. Keep an eye on Shimanoumi. He's going to go up a couple ranks maybe with an 8 and 7. You know, he probably needs more than a little bit of a breakaway. I just anybody who can hold at the edge like that, just dig in and say never say die. You'll be my friend. So next up, Megashira 10. We're in the double digits now. 10 East, Tamawashi 11 and 4. Who are those people who are saying Tamawashi has lost his power? I want to laugh in your face because he's got it back. And he's also got some good defense, and he's doing some throws. Now that his arm lock throw has sort of been his staple, but he busted it out a couple times. It's been taking a leave of absence, and it's just sort of been that Nodowa neck throw for him for a while. But he's showing some stuff. I think he just hit his groove this Basho. Missed out on the special prize, which sucks a little bit, but 11 and 4, it really tells the story all by itself. And I think Tamawashi's key to success, as much as that power that he always has, is that he was really good at positioning. There were a couple of times that people either got in close or were grappling him. He was able to break them and then get the distance to start thrusting again. And that's that veteran power coming through. And I'm just love seeing Tamawashi do well. And so this was a great tournament for me. The 11 and 4, I mean, cannibalized him up pretty far. I'm going to be interested to see where the Banzuke places him. Definitely, he was 7 and 8 for a little bit. Then we're looking at him. We're like, I still maintain that Tamawashi and didn't lose any of his edge. It's just that other people maybe sort of got the edge on him. He sort of got the edge back this time around. With the footwork, with the advantage on the Tachiai, couple throws. See what happens with him. See what happens. I'm getting ahead of myself with Tamawashi. Him making a resurgence. I think he's going to be like with the other veterans, with the Myogiryus, the Takarafujis, Okinoumis. They sort of hang out in the middle and they just start cracking people. Anybody who looks at him weird, just give him that Tamawashi stiff arm and down you go. So next up is Terunofuji 8 and 7, Megashira 10 West. So, interestingly enough, is during the ring entering ceremonies, Terunofuji was, I think he was Dew Sweeper a while back, and this time around he was the Sword Bearer. And I was going to make a witty joke about how Hakuho is going to need a new Sword Bearer, but that's probably when I realized that they were training Terunofuji for Terunofuji. I was like, oh, of course it makes sense. That you have the guy who's probably going to be doing Yokozuna stuff with the current one. And good news for Terunofuji is that the 8 and 7 means that he will actually be able to be the Sword Bearer or the Dew Sweeper for Terunofuji when he does the ring entering ceremonies. I cannot help but think that that's going to be so positive energy for Terunofuji. And I remember way back when he did that leg pick on Asanoyama, and that sort of helped Terunofuji get some of his earlier wins. And so, like, there's that Heiyaban, that team spirit that's definitely going into this. So, in terms of Terunofuji's actual performance, I'm going to officially say that week 1 Terunofuji is a thing. That last tournament, he did the same thing. He had a huge amount of losses in the first week, and I'm like, oh no, he's down in Juryo. And then in the second week, he awakens and gets this huge rush. Let's see, he had 6 wins in a row. So 6 of his 8 wins were in the second week, all just on top of each other. So this is just a thing Terunofuji does. I'm going to stop worrying about it until day 8. So the first 7 days of Terunofuji, I'm just going to sleep. I'll watch it still and enjoy it. But like if he keeps losing, I'll be like, whatever. And still needs some better footwork. Still needs to tighten that up. A lot of his losses. Now, again, this is the July, the tournament of the slip. But he was caught overextending a little bit. Gets outmaneuvered a little bit. Worth noting that, well, first off, great leg throws. Keep at it, Terunofuji. I love that. He did have wins against Ishihara, who was on a tear. And I think one of the best dance-offs I've ever seen in the top division when he fought Chiyoshoma and they both tried to trip each other. And, that was a great time. Well done, Terunofuji. You will likely be hanging out with your new Yokozuna brother in a little bit. Great to see you doing well. I still have a little hope in my heart for Terunofuji to make another Terraform, because he made a run at it a little while back, and then he sort of just started dwindling down a little bit. Now, an 8 and 7 really isn't the new spark. But again, I'm hoping that the Yokozuna energy sort of gets bathed into on him. I think Ishiura had a little bit of that going into this himself. So I'm sort of like, maybe there's something going on here. You know, if you carry the sword during the ring entering ceremony for a Yokozuna who's also in your stable, you do a little better. Right? It makes sense on paper anyway. So, Megashira 11, East, Kaisei 6 and 9. So I had sort of the opposite of Terunofuji. The first week, Kaisei seems to be doing pretty well. I stopped paying attention to him. And then I realized he loses 4 of his last 5. I'm like, oh no, Kaisei, where are you going? So like at first I thought, oh, you're doing well, you're treading water, you're winning and you're losing. But now I'm like, 6 and 9. That's not treading water at all. So not really much changing in terms of how Kaisei fights. We still are seeing that he's got the sort of the base of power. He's able to exert his power. It's not as easy for other people to move him around, but he's still sort of like fighting in slow motion a little bit. He did have some really like strong power wins against Hidenoumi and Daieisho, where he just like, I'm gonna throw this big guy now, and just whoosh, and it was. Oh, there's probably no sound effect. I added that in. I gotta go. Actually, you know what? I'll go back and listen when I'm done here. Maybe there's a whoosh. Anyway, Kaisei on the way down is a little concerning for me. I really like Kaisei. But really, it's one of those things that it's you can't really expect much else. It's like if he's going to win, if he's able to get the belt grip, if he's able to sort of fight at his own pace, then he's going to get those wins. If people are going to crack him, outmaneuver him, strafe him, throw him down, then it's only so much Kaisei can do at this point. So, yeah. Well, we're starting to get to that point in the list that we're looking like, how long is this guy going to be around? And 6 and 9, I think he's going to be at a... Well, the good news is that he's been inching his way up with some 8 and 7s. And now with a 6 and 9, he's going to sort of lose his momentum, but he had that buffer he built in, I guess. Sumo giveth and it taketh away, I guess. But it's also giving. I go over to Megashira 11 West, and we see Koto no Waka. Oh my goodness, 12 and 3? Hello! Outstanding performance prize, I believe. Let me double check. Fighting Spirit, specifically. Nobody had the outstanding performance this time around, which is basically because you can't give it to a Yokozuna or a Yokozuna in contention. Anyway, 12 and 3. Oh my goodness. Koto no Waka woke up. And these are some real interesting victories, like decisive victories. Now, he's low enough down that there is that sort of the inevitable grain of salt. I mean, not like the Terunofuji salt that goes all over the place, but like a small amount, a decent salt throw of, well, he needs better competition. I think now he's proven it. Some fellow belt people, Tokushoryu and Hidenoumi, he decisively won. Like, almost any time he got that belt, he won. He outshoved Chiyonokuni, which for me was a bit of an eye-opener. Showed that diversity that you really need to get all the way up there. And for a while was a title contender. Like, there was that moment in time, like, days 7, 8, 9, that there was a chase group against Hakuho and Terunofuji. Now, the problem is that the chase group turned into 2-3 losses, which any other tournament, 12 and 3, he's in contention. He might have even won the race. But the 12 and 3, when you have 14 and 0s going into the last day, means that they give him a special prize and very likely a very hearty promotion, which is going to make September really interesting for that crap of up-and-comers I was talking about, Koto no Waka making his move. Yes! Of note, Koto no Waka has the sportsmanship. We always like seeing the sportsmanship. It's a very sumo thing that everybody's sort of in this together. Ichinojo, of particular note, had a few moments of checking in on people. Ichinojo and Takakeisho is very unfortunate. Like, very gently, he's like, oh, this guy's injured. I'm going to gently drive him out and then place him down. Like, he's not going to just chuck him. Ichinojo, good guy. Kotonowaka, also good guy. Had a fight with Ura. Not blasts Ura out of the tournament. Notices that Ura's sort of taking his time getting up. Kotonowaka comes off the dohyo. Doesn't just do the lean his hand out and say, you okay? Comes down. Jumps off the dohyo like, oh no, this guy may need some help. You like seeing that. You like that positive quality. And, I mean, you have, you have your Terunofuji sort of blasting people out. And you have, like, the Aoiyama who's shoving people who are already out. And that's sort of, it has its own energy to it. And certainly, you can't really separate one from the other. But there's something about, like, the positive community feel that you see something like that and you're like, I like this person. Now you want to root for this person. Like, now I see this and I'm like, Kotonowaka, you're not just really good at sumo and 23 years old. So got 10 years of this going forward before we even were in. You're also nice. So hey, I can get behind that. So Kotonowaka, welcome back. Like, this is the Kotonowaka that everybody was just like, watch this guy, he's coming for it. It's like, you fight like that, you blink and he's Sanyaku. Very, very exciting. So, next up, Tochinoshin, Megashira 12 East, 7 and 8. That is a scrape by 7 and 8. Oh boy. So, he did wake up. Like, it took him like 6 days to really wake up, I feel. Or 5 to 6, like starting day 6 was the Tochinoshin that we remember. The first like 4 days, well, technically the first 5 days, he henkas on day 5, which is just desperation. Like, I was like, call the funeral company. Tochinoshin has died. It was really rough. But does some good belt fights, showing the effort even when he loses after that day 5. So, like, the first third of the tournament was just, ugh. And the rest of it did pretty well. Like, again, like, if he was 6 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 6 and 4 in the second half of the tournament, and just had a really terrible first few days. So maybe Tochinoshin's still hanging in there a little bit, but again, the 7 and 8, we're getting to the point that you don't want those losing records anymore. Because 12 East, now for other reasons, he's definitely going to be safe. And first off, even if he wasn't going to be safe, I could see them sparing him. But, I mean, he's going to be like 13 or so next tournament. He needs to just hold on for dear life at this point. Like, him and Kaisei are sort of in the same boat in this way, that there's only so much they can do. I was really, particularly since I was like, oh my god, he's going to die out there in the first few days. And then later on, I'm like, he's doing some strong man stuff against big people. Like, he gets belt fight. When you're in a belt fight with Tokushoryu, that's a lot of man to push around. So, still doing his thing. Even in losses, doing his thing. But he's just, that knee, man. Oh, God. So, he may start needing a leash on the top division. He may be in a hot seat in a little bit, but 7 and 8, the rally in the last couple of days, the last second half of the tournament, gonna keep him around a little while longer. If he can keep that spark, if he can keep... Oh, man, he's probably injured, probably something... I don't know. I'm speculating here. Tochinoshin, I'm glad you didn't die horribly. I guess is the best I can say for you. And good to see that strongman sumo. It's always a few tournament days, some fights, that he gets to air on people. It's always good to see. But, well, in any case, 7 and 8 for Tochinoshin, probably in the yellow, not in the red yet, though. Next up, Kageyaki, 7 and 8 as well. Megashira 12 West. Some fights, he has a lot of power. I think he launched Ura deep into the stands. A few people did that, actually. Against Chiyomaru, he just blasted the dude out. Kageyaki's problem, as I maintain, is that he's sort of the reverse Enho. Is that he does one thing, in that he's good at showing his power and driving people back and sort of sticking with them as they go backwards. That's his deal. But he doesn't seem to have a plan B if somebody can resist his power. So like Ishiura did a great job of just holding the line against Kageyaki. Kageyaki couldn't move Kaisei in both of those matches. Probably those were matches he could have won, but he lost because his plan A didn't work. It also seems that if you can get inside on him, he has trouble dealing with it. And so my takeaway for Kageyaki this time around is that he does seem to have these Achilles heels. He doesn't have that plan B sometimes. And to be fair, plan A got him 7 wins. So at the same time, this could sort of be like the Takakeisho argument that you do one thing because that's what you're best at. And so you just got to keep refining this one thing until nobody can deal with it. Maybe that's Kageyaki's answer. It doesn't seem like that's the case. If he can take a few pages maybe out of like Tamawashi's book and get that distance management better, then he's going to be difficult to deal with because he's got the reach, he's got the power, but you can't breach him. So, I mean, there's a few options. I'm not a coach. I don't do sumo, nothing. I'm pretty sure if Kageyaki was charging at me, I would scream like a shiny child and go running away. That being said, we're reaching that point in the lower division that if you can't keep those wins going, you're going to fall off. So Kageyaki's probably on a downward trend unless he does something different. But he's fun. I like Kageyaki. It doesn't seem like there's anything malicious about him at all. And there's these pieces of Kageyaki. Like if I just do this and I do this and I do this, and you're just like, it's just like you're 13 too. You're like Kotonowaku. You just reawaken. I feel like that's in there. Kageyaki, please let it out. So now that we're into Megashira 13. We're going to be starting to talk about relegation a little bit. And unfortunately, this is going to be in the form of Chiyomaru at Megashira 13 East, 6 and 9. So Chiyomaru sort of in the same boat as Tochinoshin and Kaisei. They're fighting their best fight. And this is all you'd expect from the jolly lime green belt. He's doing the slaps and the pulls, some belt work, just using his size. He does seem to be losing dominance. His losses are becoming a little more decisive. So from this point forward, everybody with a losing record is sort of at risk of going down. But where things are going to be interesting is how far down you are versus how bad your record is. So we go down a little further and we see Chionokuni at Megashira 16 East with a 7 and 8. You probably can't save that. But you go to Tokushoryu at 7 and 8 at Megashira 15. It's is that going to be considered better or worse than a Chiyomaru with a 6 and 9? This is sort of where what I call the Makikoshi hold game comes in. And this is going to be what's interesting about the Banzuke when we come back for September. Is Chiyomaru going to be able to hold just barely in the top division with that 6 and 9 at 13, or is he going to be in the top rung of Juryo? And we're going to get a little more into that when we talk about the Juryo people. In short, I'm expecting 3 slots to be taken by the lower divisions. So maybe Chiyomaru is one of them, or maybe Chiyomaru sort of gets a second leash on life and just isn't a super red. I personally love seeing Chiyomaru, so wouldn't mind him, but can I choose against Chiyomaru and Tokushoryu and Shiono? I can't. I like all of them. You don't ask me these questions, really. I'm not gonna, don't tell me to point at somebody and make them go down to a lower division. I can't do it. I don't have that power. And this is where when it comes to matchmaking, when it comes to the Banzuke, I'm just I like all of them. Can't we all just keep our ranks? And then they just look at me and they shake their heads. I'm like, damn it. Oh, nearly had it. Thought I just had to ask, and they'd say yes. But anyway, Chiyomaru, not a great time of it, but this is if he just shows up, I'm already happy. So that's all I really wanted. Speaking of being happy when you show up, Megashira 13 West. Ura! Welcome back. 10 and 5. Had a slightly rough start, 2 and 3 out the gate. Turns into that 10 and 5. He's back, and I think I'm going to join the absolute majority of every living being on Earth when I was saying it was great to watch Ura do his stuff again. And he did everything. He did the squirming, he did flexibility, he did crazy throws, he's got the great pink mawashi, he eats slaps for breakfast. So against Chiyomaru and Chiyonokuni, it was just like, whatever, slap me, I'm gonna get on in. Now, Ishiura sure did a number on him, but we'll get to Ishiura in a minute. What was interesting is, so old Ura, smaller Ura, was all those tricks and fun and stuff like that, but this new Ura has some power. He drove out Tsurugisho. Big old 190 kilo Tsurugisho knocks him out of the ring. I'm like, whoa. Very exciting. Very, very exciting. 10-5 is going to knock him up a little bit. Ura also did beat Kiribayama, which was a really decisive match in my mind for him. So I would think personally that Ura would be in that upper crust of the contenders. Put him in with Kotonowaka, put him in with Kiribayama and Hoshoryu and sort of Onosho, but Onosho's in timeout until he can show that he's doing better. But Onosho, I want you out of timeout, but I'm getting way off topic now. Ura 10-5, the strong, decisive, welcome back. So good. I was going to complain about the hair pull on Kaisei, but I really need to stop complaining about hair pulls. It's just part of sumo, and I think it was actually a hair pull, even though it was accidental. I need to just not talk about hair pulls, and allegedly Hakuho did some, and allegedly Ura did, and they caught Ura, and they didn't catch Hakuho. Whatever. 10-5 Ura. That is the takeaway. The pink belt is back, and he is looking great. And he did take more than a few tumbles and slaps and hits, which, that does concern me a little bit, but he's okay for now. Hopefully he'll be okay. So, somebody who's definitely not okay, unfortunately, is Megashiro 14 East, Daieisho 4 and 11. He was smashed. I just have, like, my notes, I just have smashed. So, Daieisho, who was sort of like the jack of all trades, master of none, sort of interesting to see because he had this diverse pool of tricks, sort of got out-tricked all the way around. What also kind of was bad for Daieisho is that he was in a lot of really good fights, but this was like someone else's highlight reel. So, when somebody else is doing really well, like Ishiura or Ichiyamamoto, Teretsuyoshi, it's just like, they're doing really well, but they're doing it well to Daieisho. So Daieisho is just collecting all of these wrong side of the highlight reel kind of matches. And that was sort of his lot in life for this tournament. So that double-digit losses is guaranteeing him a trip down the Juryo, which is unfortunate because I do feel like I wanted to watch Daieisho a little bit more to get to really know him. But this is sumo. You fight well or you take a trip. And sadly for Daieisho, it is trip time. So, I mean, it is kind of interesting because now we're getting to the point that, like, the top half of Juryo are all people that we're keeping an eye on. So, we'll be watching him. And it's not like he didn't have any good fights. I think his fight with soon-to-be fellow Juryo man Shohozan was pretty epic. So, he still got it. It's just he didn't have it in the 15 days it mattered. Unfortunate. So, Daieisho, unfortunately, this will be a farewell for now, but I'd like to see you back. So, see what you can do next time around. So, next up, Megashiro 14 West, Chiyono. New face for me. Came in trying to figure him out. 7-8 was his record at the end, which was a little bit unfortunate because he looked like he was going to get the Kachikoshi. First week or so, he's doing some belt stuff. It's kind of interesting. I didn't really make an impression on me at first. I'm sort of just watching him like, okay, belt dude. And then he was, 2-5, so I'm just like, I guess I don't need to keep an eye on him. And then he has this awakening where he really shows the belt sumo. He shows his power. So, against Kotonowaka, one of the few people to beat Kotonowaka, 12-3 Kotonowaki, has this photo finish, throw, and then Kotonowaka is like also turning, and he just barely gets it. another photo finish on Myogiryu, and this, like, for me, this was a turning point. As I'm pretty sure if this wasn't a turning point for me, I'd be dead. But regardless, Myogiryu driving forward, Chiyono on the edge picks Myogiryu up while leaning backwards and throws him from leaning backwards. Holy moly, that is power. That was fun. Chiyono, cool dude. I'm on board this train. Now, this train is... So again, this is where the Make hold goes in. The fact that other people below him are 7 and 8 basically saves him from getting knocked down on the first time up. And, well, I think ever, but maybe in a while. But anyway, so he's going to be, like, right on the razor's edge. So, good news for me, I get more Chiyono to talk about in September. But bad news for Chiyono, you are not getting a second chance. But hey, good stuff from you. Good. Welcome to the top division. Just barely his good performance in May saved him in July, I guess. So next up, Tsurugisho, which we just mentioned, Megashare 15 East, 8 and 7. Does get it on day 14, so he, sort of saved himself a little bit. His sumo seemed a little more sturdy this time around. So when he was a little bit higher up, he did seem to have some issues. Maybe it was injury, nerves, pressure, whatever. Like when he won, it would seem pretty like decisive. And even like when he lost, he was doing pretty well for himself. He's been becoming fun to watch. Him and Hidenoumi, they have sort of a similar story that they're struggling a little bit, but they're sort of carving out their own niche and they're showing like what makes them cool. And for Tsurugisho, there was a few really fun things. So this was day 1 we fought against Chiyono. There was like, he did this thing, I don't know if it was intentional, but like he held his hand out in midair and then Chiyono like charged into him. And then Tsurugisho like timed the grip. Like it was like this, I foresee your movements and now I'm going to throw you with some like veteran mashing. I was like, whoa, that's a pretty neat trick. The other neat trick was lifting Kaisei up, big old Kaisei. And when he fought Kageyaki and he got inside, again, Kageyaki, if you get inside, he's in trouble. Whenever somebody big as Kageyaki gets thrown, and you can see the air, like the air between their body and underneath, like he threw him like groceries. It was crazy. I was like, whoa! Somebody that big should not be thrown that high off the ground. But he did! Because Tsurugisho is awesome. And 8 and 7 means he's hanging out for a little bit, but again, this is a little too far deep in double digits to be scraping by. So Tsurugisho needs to either just keep scraping or make a little more movement. And we'll see what happens for him. But thank you for making me nearly choke on my coffee from doing some really cool stuff. Oh man. If Tsurugisho does that once a Basho, I gotta call someone up and be like, keep him in. I don't care what the record is. So, Megashira 15 West. This is where things get a little unfortunate because Tokushoryu 7 and 8 has this weird 7-loss slump in the middle of the tournament. Does like the first 4 days in particular was like the Tokushoryu of old, the one that showed up in January of 2020 and Cinderella Story wins the tournament. Like his power, his just forward motion, his just like, get out of my face, I'm going to win kind of mentality. The first 4 days he had it. And then he just falls off hard. Just loses, decisively loses, seems to be lost, getting bullied around. Makes a rally in the last 4 days. And sort of gets back to his winning ways and imposing his will. But where this sucks is that his 7-8 is too far down to be saved. So he's going to be like 1 East in Juryo next tournament, and that makes me sad because it like whenever somebody makes this kind of a comeback, you're just like, let him stay, but it's probably not going to happen. He was also getting outmatched at the ring edge in a few matches, which is concerning for Tokushoryu because that's sort of his deal. These are just the way the cookie crumbles sometime. Unfortunately, Tokushoryu, I really just hope you come back because he came back already. And now he's going to go back down, so maybe he'll just be able to make another little push. We'll see. But fun. Those first 4 days were just such dream-like fun. But anyway, double whammy of don't want you to go down, but really, what else is there going to happen? Chiyo no Kuni, Megashira 16, East 7 and 8. So, didn't expect this to happen, honestly. Chiyo no Kuni seemed safe, because, well, he was 5, he was 5-5. Then he got 2 wins, he was 7-5, and he loses the last 3, which is really unfortunate. He still had he always has his scrappy sumo, his barroom brawl stuff that we love. He seemed tentative, like he was holding back a little bit or just a little more cautious. Maybe he was injured, maybe he didn't want to be injured again. Maybe he's just like, okay, I can't just go nuts, I gotta reel it in a little bit. But it seemed that the more tentative nature meant that losses against certain people felt like maybe if he was going on all cylinders, he could have won it. But at the same time, wins against some bigger people, like he's still got the power when he's able to push it out. So Tsurugisho again was somebody who just got knocked out, and you can't move Tsurugisho normally. So he's still there, he's still got the power. And again, 7 wins. It's not like he did bad. It's just that he was at a point that he had no margin for error. And he lost 6 of his last 8 matches. So he just sort of faded away at a very inopportune time. Just barely loses out on it, which means he's going to go down to Juryo. The hope is Chiyo no Kuni just snaps right back up. Just sort of takes a dip and comes back. And maybe he is just injured, still dealing with all the things that he's perpetually dealing with. And he'll just be back in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. And then when we are doing November, he'll be back up here. Fingers crossed on that. But unfortunately, Chiyo no Kuni just needed a little more power. He didn't have it. So, somebody who did have power. Oh my goodness. Blink and this happens. Ishiura, Megashira 16 West, 9-6. And 7 of those 9 wins were just all on top of each other. So he starts out 0-3. So we're like, Ishiura's on the way down. Wins 7 in a row. And like, these wins aren't just like, okay, he won. This is smashing people on his bike, but also being strong about it. He did Henka again. He Henka'd Kaisei. I'm like, okay, come on, you don't need to do that. He did, and before I was talking about how Ishiura like resisted Kageyaki's, like that was really good. Like Kageyaki may have lost it, but Ishiura like made that fight because he resisted at the edge. It was pretty epic. And he does a lot of like spinning, running around people. I'm pretty sure he made Tochinoshin dizzy by the end of that match. And showed what the old Ishiura was like. For for 9 wins and fought really strong many other times. Pleasant to watch Ishiura's return to form. I hope this becomes a trend. Also of note on the side is that Ishiura got revenge for Enho by slapping the heck out of Ura. A concerning amount of violence from Ishiura. But again, that's where the group energy sort of helps you, comes into play. Definitely got a high five from Enho at the end of that day. Want to see more of this from Ishiura. I think this is the Ishiura who can make a break for it. But let's see him do it again. If he can get a 9-6 in September, I think he'd be in a very good place. And last, but certainly not least, but almost least, goodness gracious, Ichi Yamamoto, Megashira 17 East. There was an interesting turn of events to have Ichi Yamamoto here. He was Juryo 8 with a 10-5, so he pole vaults over Takayama, who was Juryo 3 with an 8-7. We're like, that's an interesting choice. He proved his mettle. He proved that he belonged here. Very fun, interesting to watch. He's got a big old story that's online. I'm not gonna just butcher it. Has a nice stiff arm tachi. Good at momentum, good at timing. Does some belt stuff, which you usually don't expect from the pusher thruster types. Fights, well, I will say he had a confidence to him. Now, the confidence could have also have been him being 7-2 going into day 9. He like Kotonowaku was one of those people that were like, they could actually be in contention. And what was actually interesting is that on day 10, they put Ichiyamamoto and Kotonowaku together in this weird like midweek title eliminator, which makes sense on paper because they're both doing really well, but you sort of you'd be like, maybe you want to keep that chase pack a little strong. Ultimately didn't matter because he hit a 5-loss streak after when he lost to Kotonowaku and almost got knocked out of the top of division after a 7-2, which would have been absolutely a disaster. But barely holds on at the end. Ichiyamamoto like gets a free fall and barely pulls himself out of it. But he's fun. I like Ichiyamamoto. He's got a nice set of tricks. He has a range of techniques on display. He's got a lot of potential. And, I mean, despite his age, because he joined so late, that means that his body is in pretty good condition. So, he's got more time in sumo than someone of his age normally would, which may have interesting implications later on down the road. But what I will say is, welcome to top division, Ichiyamamoto. If you keep fighting the way you did in the first 9 days and just stop doing whatever the hell happened to you in the final 6, you may make a name for yourself here, and that is going to be very fun to watch. So, that's top 42. Special prizes. I had mentioned them before, but there was the Fighting Spirit that went to Kotonowaku, and the Technique prize that went to Hoshoryu. There was a Fighting Spirit, I think, that was promised Tamawashi, but then he lost on the last day, so that didn't work out. Some notes on Jiryo. So, the 3 people with winning records that were close enough to the top to make the jump would be Takayama, Akuwa, and Jiryo Yusho winner Mitoryu. So that's likely going to upend Chiyonokuni, Tokushoryu, and Daiamami. Now, they may give Tokushoryu a pass for Chiyomaru, because Tokushoryu was 7-8 and Chiyomaru was 6-9, but Chiyonokuni and Daiamami's fates are all but sealed. Other notables in Jiryo, Abi, who's made his salary debut, is 11-4, so he's actually won off the tournament. Had his first loss since his return. Well, he had 4 of them. Likely going to be here in November at this rate, which will be interesting to see. Unfortunately, our fallen stars Endo and Midorifuji are unfortunately continuing to fall. I believe both of them are injured or fighting injured. One or both of them have double-digit losses. Midorifuji may fall out of Jiryo. I have a feeling they may keep him in just sort of as a saving grace. It's sort of bad news for us, because it means it's going to be a little while before we see either of them in the top division again. Sort of seems to be Endo's lot in life this time around, but for Midorifuji, it seemed like he had a second wind and he's lost it, which just hurts a bit. I'd like to see both of them, but they gotta fight their own demons for now. They gotta stamp them out. People who did not fight in this tournament were Akisayama due to complications to jaw injuries, and Ryuden for complications for being a bad boy. And they are basically out of the Jiryo division due to their older age and sort of slipping status prior to this. I'm sort of gonna say goodbye to them now. I'm gonna really miss Akisayama. Ryuden was fun. The Jockey Sumo always brought a smile. The revival, the storyline with Shobushi, all this stuff is sort of going to be missed. But such is the way of sumo, unfortunately. And that's all I got. Thank you for listening. Maria and I should be back to our normal duo podcasting ways for the September Basho. This was a great tournament. A little bit of everything. A lot of what was going on was overshadowed by the Herculean efforts of Terunofuji and the return of the master himself in Hakuho. But certainly a lot of converging stories going on here. And September is going to be gonna be an air of something different, I feel. There's gonna something's gonna shake things up. Maybe just having that extra Yokozuna at the top is gonna be it, but I sense a change in the winds, and we're gonna see what happens there. I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. I'm always looking forward to it. It's gonna be a rough week of no sumo for a little while, several weeks of no sumo. Bad news. But regardless, again, thank you for listening. Enjoy yourselves wherever you are, and farewell.